With the tools available today, creating an online course has never been easier. But how easy is it to make a course from scratch that is actually profitable? Well, it took me 80 hours from coming up with an idea to producing it, recording it, launching my course, and making my first sale. And today, I'm going to walk you through my process. The first step was coming up with an idea. If you don't already have a topic in mind, start with what you know. Think about your skills, past experiences, and even things that other people often come to you to ask help with. Now, AI tools like ChatGPT will be your best friends throughout this entire process, so you can start by asking it to help brainstorm ideas with you. Start by sharing your skills and interests and ask for it to give you a list of topics that can be valuable to others as an online course. For mine, I looked at what I already had experience in, as well as what would be worth a purchase to others. So I chose a topic I knew well, how to set up a profitable Etsy shop, which was something I had already done and had success with. But just having an idea is not enough. You need to validate it. I did this with keyword research and competitor analysis. First, I checked KeySearch, my favorite keyword research tool, to make sure there was enough search volume and interest in the topic of Etsy. Now, keep in mind, just interest in a topic is not enough. You need to make sure people would actually be willing to purchase a course on that topic. This is key because there are plenty of topics where there's a lot of interest and a search volume, but people don't actually want to pay to learn. Things like nutrition or fashion, obviously there are still ways to create courses within those topics, but it's definitely harder to understand the specific demand surrounding that interest. So for me, I went ahead and I researched keywords like Etsy course or how to set up an Etsy shop, things that I knew would show people would be willing to pay to actually learn that process. Next, I knew I wanted to host my course on Udemy and eventually expand to Skillshare. And this is something I can't recommend enough because Udemy brings with it an audience of over 70 million people. Now, Skillshare has a smaller audience, but the interest of their audience aligned really well with my course topic. The only way I would recommend you host your course anywhere else, especially paid platforms that you need to bring in your own traffic, is if you already have a large audience that is already interested in your course topic. So I knew I needed to validate my course topic on those platforms. So I checked Udemy and Skillshare to see if similar courses existed. If it did, that was a good sign because it meant there was enough demand. And I checked. Good to go. Now that I knew there was enough demand, I needed to make sure there was room for me in the market and that it wasn't too competitive. If I saw that there were way too many big players with high numbers of reviews, ratings, and with a pretty comprehensive coverage of the topic, that was not going to be a course that I would pursue. So I made sure I analyzed what those competitive courses covered, what students were saying in the reviews about the course and content, and then analyze if there was opportunities for me to position my course differently or better. This right here was one of the most crucial parts of the entire process because I needed to make sure I could compete with existing courses by also including what they did well and also including what they did not do well, and then winning that audience over to my course. Here again, ChatGPT is a game changer because it can help you process all of that data, all of those student reviews from competitive courses in just seconds and help you know exactly how you can position your potential course. And that is why I'm going to give you this exact ChatGPT review analysis prompt for free so you can just copy and paste and use it throughout your own course creation process. Link is going to be in the description below. It was during this analysis that I discovered that most of the current courses at the time did not include or had very basic covering of Etsy advertising. So I knew that by including this topic in depth within my course, I would win over those potential students to my course. Once I was confident in my idea, it was time to build my outline. I started with a basic outline, just a list of key topics my course needed to cover. Eventually, those became my course modules. From there, I broke it down into short, digestible lessons that would take my students from Module 1 to Module 2, eventually to Module 3. Basically, a step-by-step process that they needed to go from knowing absolutely nothing about Etsy to then being successful and managing a profitable Etsy shop. Honestly, so many people miss out on this incredible business model opportunity that is creating online courses because they assume others will only purchase courses from experts, or they won't purchase anything at all because they can easily find that content for free on YouTube. But in reality, what 80% of people who purchase courses want is a simple, organized, step-by-step process on that topic. They don't want to go on YouTube and have to search for every single step, not to mention things they don't even know they need to learn one by one. That is what you're giving them. They want that process built for them so that it's worth it for them to purchase your online course. So of course, here you can also utilize ChatGPT to make the process faster. You can ask for help to structure your content and make sure that there's nothing missing from your outline. From there, you can also have it help you draft your course lecture scripts. Now it's time to produce your course and start recording your course content. This is where most people get stuck, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Once I had my outline, I created a spreadsheet just like this, and for each lecture I asked myself, what is the best way to deliver this content in order to give the best value to my student while minimizing production effort? So basically, I divided my lectures into 3 types. Tutorials, which is the easiest and also super valuable to students in order to show a step-by-step process versus them just looking at my face. Talking head videos, which gets people excited and more connected with me, their instructor, and it's great for simple concepts, conversations, and intros. And finally, presentations, which is great for breaking down concepts and displaying data. So I dove into creating the presentation slides for the lectures that require them. That was something I enjoyed doing, but of course here you can outsource this and hire a graphic designer on Upwork or Fiverr to do this for you very inexpensively. Then I made sure I had all the equipment I needed to record my course. A good quality mic, also a good quality webcam, and my laptop with QuickTime Player, which is the program that I used to screen record my lectures. You don't need to have the highest production quality, a fancy studio, or expensive camera equipment. The key here and the most important thing to your students will absolutely be the content. Now, of course, make sure to try to have a nice, clean background, some good lighting, and to look professional in your videos. And I'll also make sure to link my favorite and inexpensive filming equipment in the description below for you as well. With the course recorded, it was time to edit, which was the most time-consuming part for me. But I kept it simple. You don't need fancy effects. You just need to make sure your content is clear, professional, and engaging. A couple of tips here to make this part of the process easier is to 1, always make sure the title of your video files match the title of your course outline. So right here, I would make sure to go on my spreadsheet that I created, copy the exact title of my lecture, and name my video file the same. This is going to avoid confusion and wasted time later, especially if you decide to hire someone else to edit your lectures for you. Number 2 is to add editing notes to your lecture spreadsheet as soon as you finish filming your lectures. So for example, if you just finished recording a tutorial that shows sensitive data you need to cover, make sure that as soon as you're done finishing, you go to the row of that lecture on your spreadsheet and you add in that that note. And even better if you put exactly the timing of the video that needs that specific edit. Trust me, that is going to speed up the process no matter who is editing it, because later you will forget. That brings me to tip number 3, which is to produce your content in batches. So make sure that you just set up your recording area once, then you batch record all of your lectures or as many as you can in one sitting. And then once you're done recording all of your lectures, you then start editing, or you hire someone else to edit. Trust me, this is going to really speed up the process. So those editing notes will really come in handy, because you're no longer going to remember after you've done recording 20, 30 lectures what specifically needs to be edited for each one. For my course, I used Premiere Pro to edit, which is a paid tool that I already knew how to use and already had access to, but you can use the free version of DaVinci Resolve, which is an editing tool that has everything you would need to edit your content. Now, of course, you also have the option to outsource this part of the process as well. That is going to save you a lot of time, and you're also able to find inexpensive video editors on Upwork and Fiverr as well. Now that my course content was recorded and edited, I moved on to packaging, which is what actually will convert your potential buyers into students. So it is extremely important. I started with the title, and your title needs to be clear, compelling, and optimized. So make sure that you include keyword and keyword phrases that people would actually be using to search for that topic. So in my case, I did Etsy shop setup, SEO, and ads, beginner to advanced 2025, because I have since updated my course. So this was very important. I needed to show them that even if they knew nothing about Etsy, or if they were already Etsy sellers who wanted to learn advanced topics, this course was for them. So it was important for me to list a few different important topics that someone interested in learning about Etsy would be interested in learning. And of course, if you remember from the research phase, the competitor analysis, I wanted to make sure to include advertising, because it was something that was lacking from my competitors. Next, I moved on to the subtitle. And here you should include the ultimate outcome that your students are looking for, a timeline, as well as overcoming their biggest fear. So in my example, we have set up and grow your own wildly successful Etsy shop fast without any existing products or skills. And then I added complete 2025 guide. So here I mentioned their ultimate desire, which is to have a wildly successful Etsy shop. I mentioned that they can set this up fast, and they don't even need to have any prior skills or products, which from my research was one of their biggest challenges. Anyone who wanted or was interested in setting up an Etsy shop, but they weren't really sure because they didn't have any current skills or any current products. So it was really important for me to mention that. Then I moved on to the bullet points. And here, there's such a great opportunity for you to list everything that your course includes, all of the features of the course that backs up all of the benefits that your students will get. So one thing that I like to do is I like to go back to my course outline, go through everything that I'm going to teach my students, and transform that into a bullet point. I will end up repeating a couple of things that I mentioned in the title or subtitle, but it's going to help them convince and say, hey, I have this included that will help you achieve X, Y, and Z. So for example, I have here that it includes Etsy SEO, the #1 guide to rank and make sales while you sleep in 2025. With this bullet point, I wanted to make sure if they haven't gone through my curriculum that they know that Etsy SEO is included. And not just that, what does that mean to them? Oh, okay, Etsy SEO. Well, Etsy SEO is what is going to help you make sales while you sleep. So the ultimate benefit to my students. Another example, Etsy ads. Generate even more profit every month with our easy Etsy advertising guide. So again, I include Etsy advertising. What's the benefit for my students? This is going to generate even more sales, and it's going to be easy with our guide. So I simply did this throughout my entire curriculum, transformed them into bullet points. And then I moved on to the description. Now, if someone is reading your description, they most likely have already read your title, subtitle, your bullet points, but they still need convincing. So here is where you're going to really hone in on what they desire the most, as well as how your course can help them overcome potential challenges. So this is going to be in a little bit more of a conversational template, but it will also be a little bit repetitive. You're going to make sure that you say again everything that is included, why they can benefit from your course, how your course is the solution to their biggest fear when it comes to that topic. So in my case, for example, I knew that there were so many people who wanted to set up an Etsy shop, but they didn't consider themselves skilled, especially because there was a connotation that Etsy was only for artsy people. So they didn't consider themselves skilled. They didn't have any ideas of what products they could possibly sell. So I made sure to hone in on those challenges and how throughout my course, I helped them overcome each one of them. Another thing that you want to include in your description is social proof. Now, as soon as you launch your course, you might not have it yet, any social proof or any specific student reviews to include, but as soon as you get those, make sure to include in your description as well. And while you don't have student reviews, you can talk about your own results. So I would be talking about my success as being an Etsy seller, how much money I've generated, and so on. And lastly, you want to make sure it is optimized. So you want to make sure that you use highly searched keywords that are relevant to your course topic that you collected doing your keyword research. Then it was time to work on my thumbnail. And this is so key because it's going to be the first thing that a potential student is going to see once they search for that topic on Udemy. So it really needs to stand out. You need to make sure that it's clear, that it shows the ultimate topic that you're going to teach them, as well as the ultimate outcome. So for my Etsy course, I wanted to make sure that I included the Etsy icon, of course. I included both Sumner and I because we recorded some of the lectures together, and include flowing money as well, because to be honest, that really is the ultimate outcome of someone who wants to open an Etsy shop. So I wanted to include that without really cluttering my thumbnail, and making sure that it was optimized for mobile, because on mobile, people are only going to see the very center of your thumbnail in a 1:1 ratio. So make sure that the most important items, if not all of your items, are right in the center of your thumbnail. I also wanted to make sure to use vibrant colors because that really helped me stand out from my competitors in the search results. And last, but certainly not least, it was time to create my promo video. And the way that I like to structure my promo videos is similar to the description. I also want to bring up their biggest desires and outcome, what they want by setting up an Etsy shop. I want to show what my course covers and how the features can really bring in benefits, actual benefits to my students, and how I can help them overcome all of the challenges that they might be facing. If they're still wondering, is this really for me? Am I really going to be able to achieve my desire that I just mentioned in my promo video? Then yes, I want to show and also include social proof. So it is structured somewhat similar to my course descriptions, but of course in video format. And with my promo video, I wanted to make sure that I really put in effort in the production quality. While my lecture content can be a lot more about the content and it doesn't need to be super engaging, with the promo video, I wanted to make sure that one, my potential student who is watching that promo video can connect with me and can see kind of like a little preview of what they are going to get by watching my lectures, as well as get excited, realize that it is possible for them to actually achieve that outcome. So I make sure that I'm highly engaging. I make sure that the production quality, the camera, the audio is really exciting, as well as adding background music. And I also utilize stock videos, overlay, things that will up the production quality. Of course, you can also outsource this part of the process, which I highly recommend if you don't have the skills to actually produce a video like that. Trust me, it is going to be worth the investment because it will have a huge impact on your course sales. Now I had my course copy ready, as well as all of my course content uploaded, and I made sure to add all of the articles and resources links that I wanted to include for each lecture. Then it was time to prep my course for launch, which meant setting up the price and creating my launch coupons. Now, Udemy has ultimate control over your pricing, often giving heavy discounts, but you still need to set up your pricing tier. Then everything was ready for me to submit my course for review. And while Udemy was reviewing my course to make sure it followed all of their rules, I got started on my proven launch strategy. And that was to create coupons to offer my course for free. So you might be thinking, wait, I thought this was supposed to be profitable. Trust me, it will be, but in order for my course to compete with existing sellers, I need to make sure I can bring in enough traffic as well as student reviews and high rating. So that is part of our proven launch strategy. I created those coupon codes, and as soon as my course was live and approved by Udemy, I went to Facebook groups and shared that coupon code to bring in thousands of students for free to my Etsy course. And in less than 48 hours, I was already ranking on the top of search results for keywords like Etsy course. I already had student reviews, and I started making my first sales. So as you can see, I launched my course on July 28, 2021, and within those 48 hours, I was able to generate $486.96 of actual sales. The feeling of seeing those first dollars on the screen is unmatched because this was no longer passive dreaming. It was real income. To this date, I've made over $77,000 from that course alone on Udemy. Those same 80 hours of work. Since then, I've had to update just a few videos and reply to student questions, which takes me just minutes per day. Now, this isn't just about one lucky course. My husband and I have used this exact process to launch several courses that have now made us over $460,000 on Udemy alone. As I mentioned, we also offer our courses on Skillshare, which brings in thousands of dollars more per year on the same course content. And again, my costs were low. All I needed was a mic, a camera, my laptop, and I was able to create this money machine that earns me money while I sleep for years in just about 2 work weeks. There is no other business model that can give you this kind of return, which is why we created Freedom Falcon Academy, a program that teaches you everything that you need to know step by step to create your profitable online course. The entire process in so much more detail than what I shared here today, and also includes over 23 done for you templates and scripts, our own course topic validation service, how you can partner with other experts to bring in way more income through online course creation, and so much more. So click the link in the description below to join the FFA program and stop making excuses. This is the sign that you've been waiting for.